So as we enter the next stage of the game, fixed costs are paid. 5,300, 70 or nothing actually for blue. 7,100 for green, and we knew he had a huge thing. He also threw $1,000 into advertising because he's got some commodities left and the capability to turn 3 more around. Probably going to be opening up that other factory as well. Just try to blast everyone else with this free gift that he got. If you can't do it with that, there's no way that you can win this through managing a business, right? And in a sense, that's sort of just trying to test that out with blue handing that over, because I'm pretty sure blue will come in second by having nothing. Yellow, 3,500, didn't throw any into advertising. A $700 advertising for red, though, after paying $3,000, even though they don't have a lot of production available. They've been happy with doing their advertising, and I rolled dice for this, and they just went way up to $700. That means that we're going to get an additional FIU available. So total sales is going to be up to +2. We pull a card. There's only 4 units of raw material at 800, and again the 12 units available for sale with 6,500. Now if we look, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, they're going to all sell at maximum price. Question whether anybody wants to buy raw materials, hard call. But this was a bad time to have been forced out of the game, basically, with these good cards. I don't remember these kind of cards coming up, or I don't know if they were a part of the original business management. They seem to really skew the market in the sense that this supply and demand side of it prevents, and the randomization does prevent you from being able to calculate the game. I'm going to look at business management online and see if it had something like this, or if it just had sort of a fixed amount every turn or something. Because I remember feeling hopeless in it, in a way that this card coming out, hey, it's clear with the limited amount of sales items available this turn, we're going to be able to fill that market completely without a problem. And in fact, that money spent on advertising was wasted, because remember, we got 2 more of these to boot. At core, there were these cards, so I don't really know. I'm assuming the main difference between the 2 games, that it really is the same game, is that maybe they expanded the advanced games or tinkered with it. I know we didn't play with stuff like that, but I honestly don't know if that was necessary. You can see they don't have much effect. The advertising does, though, I think. That tinkers with this base model in a way that I like. And then some of these cards can come up and give you a real respite. However, if you're yellow or red and you don't have a lot to take advantage of this, you don't really gain much from it. Oh boy, I realized I've been charging only $1,000 a unit on the production instead of the $2,000 a unit it's supposed to be. Even then people are going bankrupt, but the bankruptcy really has more to do with, it's not a matter that the game's hard. If you were to play this solitaire, you could produce a running company very easily. It's that your competition prevents you from being able to operate correctly. I'm going to try playing by the rules at this point. I don't think it'll have much effect on anything beyond making it just a little bit more expensive to produce goods, but otherwise that's just too big an advantage for green. So I'll try to remember the 2,000 limit there. The problem with that, of course, is nobody has any money. This guy can produce 1. He can't produce any. that's his own fault for spending so much. He couldn't have even produced at the 1,000. He can't produce any. I'll leave it at 1,000. And I'll reduce this to 1,500 for 2 and 1,000 for 1. Just because that's what I started with. I don't want to change midstream. But that's still not going to help. There's still not enough money to produce much. That situation gets them in a hosed position, but maybe green wants to do this too. It's the concept of the emergency loan. Yellow was able to produce their goods. The emergency loan works just like a normal loan, except instead of 1% interest, you pay 2% interest. If you can get enough to fund your interests forward, what you need to do for the turn, it's worth doing. Remember, the cost at 1 or 2% is pretty low, to tell you the truth. So, I think we're going to be floating some loans there. Problem for green is he already has a loan in place, but now he has one more working factory, which he can take another, what? Well, I don't think you're allowed to take 5,000. What is the limit on the loans? Up to 1/2 the value of his factory unit. So you can take another $2,500 loan out as an emergency loan. And some key stuff done here. First of all, everybody sold. This guy had the advertising bonus. He ended up making $43,800. Now remember, you start with $10,000. Huge bonus. Now, half of that came from taking over somebody else's entire company, basically. But still, apparently there is an opportunity if the cards come out nicely that you can do well. The one time I played, they never came out that nicely, or they never came out nicely in a position where somebody could take advantage of it. Maybe we didn't have emergency loans and such not. We were playing the original game. Some of the doodads may be new to this. It also worked out well for these guys. They made $13,000 apiece. But now, how do you compete with somebody who's sitting on 43,000? And this guy, well, he's not sure whether his strategy works, that he's going to come in second from this, but he was certainly going to come in last the other way. So by handing the stuff off to somebody who could handle it, he gave himself some chance of coming in not last. Loans had to be paid off. We have emergency loans in both of these people. They took out $2,500 simply because that's the $50 increment. At 2%, you're paying $50 interest on that. The huge amount of extra cash, he's going to reopen his factory. That's going to currently, we're in March, that means it's operating in May. He has to skip 1 month, basically. Well, we'll see what happens in tight markets. To me, since a tight market is only a 4-unit sales, having more than 4 factory, at least I think it is, who knows, maybe they get tighter. Having a 4-factory situation in a 4-player game is more or less the most you want to have. Getting that 5th factory would be foolish. Now, the expense of automation, the inability to sell back factories unless you can find a player who'll take them, all these things become kind of weird in the game. And we'll see how that goes. Certainly you don't want to play the game for, say, 10 years, I think, because there's the depreciation factor. And once something becomes worth 0, does it really make sense that it's still running? I don't know. Okay, so we open up the next turn with some investment in advertising, $300 for green. We've got the fixed expenses, $700 for yellow and $500 for red. Red's got the bonus this time in terms of going first. That works out to be, what, $1,200, $1,500. So we're going to get a 1-point increase in what's available. And we're still a 4-player game. There's, again, we got a big rich payout here, $6,500, and we're looking at 14 units for sale. Everybody's going to make maximum price off them. Here's the problem. the minimum price here, now this guy is going to buy one, is still that boosted price. And the problem is, if you buy one at that price, you're going to probably be having trouble on, what if the demand drops back down to, say, 4 units or whatever? You're going to have trouble meeting that demand. And, well, it's very tempting not to buy, but people's stockpiles of the raw materials are going down. And you have to hold your stocks. But on the other hand, what if another one of these cards comes up? So some people may be hedging their bets by putting some bids in for raw materials. Now, advertising doesn't help you at all in buying raw materials. You're just putting a bid in with the producer. So we'll see whether or not anybody buys any. And this guy's continuing his slow decline. He's basically probably ended up in last place and probably served as a kingmaker for first place. But that kingmaker situation is kind of weird in the sense that he really did not think that he was... First of all, this guy wasn't sure he was going to come out ahead on that, right? If the market turned bad on him, that extra position, that new change to shake him from the other players, could have served to make him come in last. And secondly, this guy figured he would come in second the way the market was operating. Now, we're seeing some rich cards coming out that make a lot of value just because there's more demand than the players can produce right now. Green picked up 2 units at 800 each. Red picked up 1, what he can produce this turn, for 850. He figured, there might be some people trying to slip in the 800. I want to make sure that I get one unit so that I can run my production through. And, well, profits aren't as high as they were last time. Everybody was selling smaller amounts. Well, not these guys. They made their 13,000. Now, an interesting situation. Yellow put an advertising bid in of $700. That gave him the bonus to be able to put a bid for sale at 6,800 and still hit the 6,500 that the commodity had, right? Because of his advertising bonus. But he lost money off that, right? Because he only made an extra $600 off that $700 bid. But everyone else lost more on their advertising because they got nothing off of it. So he lost, $100, but this guy lost $500 off his choice to advertise. And this guy lost $300. So without getting any advantage whatsoever from it. So overall, his first thought is, oh shit, I lost money by advertising. But the truth of the matter is he gained position by doing so. On the other hand, with 3, and now we're going to 4 factories producing, this guy has a production advantage on everyone else that's quite significant. He also has some raw materials stocked up just in case it's another hard year and other people are going to need them. This guy's going to need 2, this guy's going to need 1 just to meet their basic production. We might start seeing some split bids. I haven't been seeing much of that yet, but I don't know, for whatever reason. And everybody paid their, except for this guy, paid their interest payments. I could probably just dump this guy out of the game at this point, although we'd still be a 4-player game because that's what we started with. So that kind of sets what the total demand is possible, I guess. I'm not sure. It wouldn't make sense necessarily that the market would significantly change based on the number of players. I don't think I saw anything in the rules that said one way or the other. Anyway, I guess we push onward, and I'm in the middle of the game of Lincoln's War with my wife now, so I'll try to roust her for another turn. Poor old Yellow fell behind the learning curve on the advertising because Green said, well, hell, I'm probably going to be able to sell 4 units, and given that, it's worth me putting $1,200 into the advertising because that should beat anyone. Now, I could have tried to get myself a little margin there, but $1,200, $300 per, if I sell the 4, that's what I make. That's going to boost us one more production, so we're up 2 production there. And, well, we got kind of a mixed result here, where units are only 6 available at 650 per, but 10 units are available to be sold at 6,000, which is almost as good as it was. This is sort of midway between these, but the sales prices look pretty good. Green has 3 units sitting in stock, so they can probably get one more. They will probably do a split bid with 3 of the units that they're going to bid at a fairly lower price, and 1 of the units going at a higher price, because they have such a pipeline, so much throughput going here that they want to get additional units. Other people may want additional too, but $650 per unit minimum is not a terribly good price, but they would like to get the production that they have slated. There's only 6 units of production available. This guy has room for 1, this guy has room for 2 and 2. That leaves only 1 in play, 1 to play with to stock for whatever that's worth. That's assuming that everybody manages to get their bids, though, and that's going to be kind of randomized what we're looking at bid-wise here. Things start getting kind of cutthroat, right? Let's see blue is not bidding. They still have a possible place in the game, maybe to buy commodities and then offer them up at higher price. The problem is, if people are doing the race for the bottom strategy, that doesn't work. So if we start seeing that coming into play, and I don't feel like we're seeing that this turn. Commodities are the shorter resource this turn, but they're not at a great price. At $650 a unit, well, getting some is important in order to turn around money. But it's a hard decision, because what if you bid a lot on them? These guys he's counting on not really being able to use more than 2 each this turn, right? So anything they buy above that might actually be a liability. Anyway, when he's looking at that cost, he ended up bidding 1 at $750, hoping to get that one, and 4 more at the $650 minimum. Here, 1 at $800, 2 at $700. So right now he's got the highest bid, he'll be getting 1. And this guy went 2 at $800. So we're going to see 3 sell at $800. Actually, we have 6 here. Okay. 3 sell at $800. 1 sell at $750. And then there's 2 more that are going to go at $700. So yellow's actually going to get a nice stockpile of commodity. Now, they could cut a deal selling some of those to green. But the way this game is so cutthroat, you're better off maybe trying to slice green out by not making those kind of deals. So holding on to the extra commodity might be a better move overall. I'll pay that out, and then everybody's going to produce maximum. And with 10 units for sale, we've got 4, 6, 10 produced. Actually, we have 12 units for sale because of the advertising. So everybody's going to be able to make max price again on these. As we finish up the month of May, obviously some of the cutthroat nature has left the spirit of the players more than anything else, because quite honestly, I should have been depriving stock to people. If you could guarantee, and you could look at the board and see that you could guarantee a $6,000 improvement on these suckers, a $6,000 gain from them, well, then the bid price, now remember, I'm cheating. I'm not playing by the rules here because I made a mistake early on. I'm only paying $1,000 per production, which is the cost for just having the factory open, which changes the dynamics a little bit. There's no question. If I'm only paying $1,000 per production on top, well, that means I'm making a $4,000 profit minus the cost of the actual object. So the actual object that I'm producing, if I don't want to lose money, is worth about $4,000 a unit. And that's the kind of bid that should be being made here. not these, 650, 700 or whatever, where we're seeing profits coming in of, what did he make? 6,300 times 4. I didn't write it down. 2520. So he made $25,000 off the production that he through this turn. That eats up his supplies, though, for the turn. However, by people making some progress, there may be money in play to build more factories. And building more factories will cost me, trying to look at the, I don't remember the time that a factory takes. Oh, it's here. So the lead time on an automated factory is 6 months, and it costs $10,000. Some people may be considering building additional factory capacity. Not Green. Green has this humongous amount of production for this game already. So I don't really want to do that with them. But Yellow and or Red may be thinking about building an automated factory. Remember, there's some tax benefits to doing so. Neither one chooses to do so. They're both feeling like the game's going to turn on its heel and people are going to be dropping out. Because that is what happens here. One person deciding that the market is too flush, that people are surviving it, can crush the other players by simply being the first one to go negative in this game. And that's what we're going to see, I believe. If I remember next turn. Sure, the advertising game is kind of weird. Green decides to undercut their previous, going to 1,000. That'll get the increase in the market. Yellow chooses not to get stung this time, although they considered it quite hard. But Red went up to 1,500. That's going to add 2 to the total out there and give Red the advertising bonus, which means $1,000 that Green spent on advertising. That's a big expenditure to get nothing but some more market play. We flip our card, and it looks like it's kind of a bust market. Lots and lots of raw materials available, and not a lot of value to the particular units. Only 4 of them are going to be demanded at a maximum price of $4,500. That's going to be tough. Green, with its big 4 production, and remember, those are supposed to cost $2,000 each to produce, and I'm cheating them down to $1,000, is going to have a tough time. However, he may want to bid and buy his share of those units at $300, because if the market comes back, having those units in storage is kind of useful. You don't want too many in storage because you pay $300 or even maybe as low as $200 a unit for each one that you're holding on to. So that adds to that cost. But certainly putting a bid in for some units seems like not an unreasonable choice. We might even see this first blue player come back in and try to buy some commodities. Like I said, he may just be hastening his doom that way. It's hard to tell. Well, the drop in price and the knowledge that, hey, eventually the price goes up. Things aren't as tight. We're not under the pressure the way we were at the beginning of the game. Has led people to be a little bit less cutthroat again. Green's trying to sell all 4 of 4,000. They produced 4. They have a couple extra units here. They'd like to move their product. They have a lot of throughput, so they want to keep selling things. Yellow says, hey, give me the full 4,500. And Red says, give me 4,800. Well, there's only 6 for sale. Green sells its 4. And then the next one is actually Yellow's 4,500. Red's 4,800, which is over the market price, but puts them with the advertising down to the market price. They probably made a mistake there. They paid a lot for marketing, for the advertising, and now just helped other people, essentially. So yellow and green are going to dump their markets, and green has some extra produce here. We actually didn't even buy up all the commodity that was available, just because it's not very promising and people have low throughput. There's a lot of commodity. Well, it could end up at a point where it's tight, where the commodity is tight for a while, but usually when that happens, I don't know, it feels like you can get the commodity at a reasonable price. We haven't been as cutthroat about that either as we might otherwise. Blue chose to do nothing. They're just hoping that people start tearing into each other again. I forgot to read the special situation. Consumer boycott against rising prices, effective next month and 2 following months. Reduce 2 units, the potential market for finished inventory figure. So it's almost guaranteed to be a weaker market at this point. Red certainly made a mistake by not trying to not making a sale with their advertising. The reason yellow won out against red was yellow is closer in the order of play to being the eldest hand at this point, or whatever you want to say. Anyway, everybody's got to pay their interest at this point, and I've got to kind of remember this goes for 3 months, so I've got to mark that down somehow. There's not really a great way to do that. Right now, that'll be July, August, and September. And this one, with the bonus, is going to be lasting through November. So we've got kind of a plus in each of these. Now, because that's a 2-point minus, on these ones with a minus, they're going to be actually down 1. Advertising could, of course, end up offsetting some of that. But who's going to advertise? Well, it depends. Somebody's going to. It's just how much is it worth advertising? As it turned out, green did not get any advantage out of advertising. They sold their goods below what everyone else was selling at. But it was possible that people could try to undercut them and drain them. The problem is they have such a bankroll at this point that they can't be collapsed. So now the only question is, can you do something to try to outperform this? Well, I was talking about doing, and kind of forgot about it, doing some kind of attempt to build an automated factory. That's a big, hefty price for anyone else to pay. Green's the only one with the kind of bankroll to really afford that. It's $10,000. They'd have to put $5,000 up now, and $5,000 would come due in 6 months. And that would start to put them in kind of a painful position. The advantage of it, though, production costs are cheaper at an automated factory. It counts kind of like 2 regular factories, but, well, normally you'd be getting it at $3,000 for 2 units. So what we'd be looking at, since we've got that at 1,000, is $1,500 for 2 units, just to keep it prorated. The other thing is, any money you spend on production through an automated factory gets you the government subsidies. That's also nice. All right, well, I think red feels like they're not going to be able to get an advantage any other way. So what they're going to do is they're going to spring that money and actually buy that factory this turn. Another one of these weak cards, lots of cheap material, not a good price here. Remember, we're down 1, but advertising added 2 again. This time yellow won the advertising race with an $1,100 bid. How much is it worth? You know, green can pump it up higher and higher, but they feel like they're getting shafted here. But with 3 people bidding, it's not just, you know, this kind of game of chicken. It's a 3-way game of chicken. If one person drops out, it's kind of, you know, it's kind of to their advantage, because they only have, you don't know what chance you have of winning it. The more you bid, obviously, the more of a chance you have of winning it. But these suckers are only worth $600. If you're throwing $1,000 and getting nothing out of it, that sucks. And that's kind of what we have for everyone except yellow, who threw in $1,100 it is going to get perhaps a $600 bonus in their price for it that they can shift because they don't have a lot of materials. Red was very interested in this, but because they have leftover production sitting around. What they may want to do, but maybe not on the other hand, is not produce more, because this cost them $1,000 to hold on to, where it would only cost $600 as raw materials. It's once again becoming less profitable. So Green only made $12,000 from their sales this time. Their total outlay was $4,600 plus advertising, $5,700, $6,700, $8,500 plus $4,000, $12,500 plus then they're going to owe $100, which I forgot to write down last time as well, on their interest, which is less or is more than the $12,000 they brought in for the turn. So they're actually losing money again. They've got the deep pockets, though. They can afford to drive the market down. Other people are doing the same. Green, well, they drove down a little bit below that 4,500 goal. They said, okay, I'm going to put a bid of 4,700. That'll get me to 4,400. If other people are kind of, willing to sell at the maximum rate, at maximum rate, I'll slip in under them. They didn't get any sales in, so their big 1,100 in advertising, their fixed expenses puts them to 37, another 900, 4,600, 6,600. They got nothing. They would have lost money this turn no matter what, and they've got this kind of continuing expense as they're building up their product and not being able to get rid of it. Red, on the other hand, really wanted to get rid of their product. They dropped their price down to $3,900. Now, do they make money with that? Probably not. $4,000, $4,900, $6,900. Yeah, they basically they made a $900 profit, which isn't bad at all. They're the only person making money because they underbid. Now, why isn't this guy making money? Well, because he just has so much product, so much infrastructure in place that he's not able to turn it around. Now, imagine if these were $2,000 each to produce. We probably would be seeing the same kind of bidding going on, this same kind of trying to drive the other people down. Because if you do not sell, if your product isn't going to be moving, the best thing you can kind of do is close down your factories and pray. What for? I don't know. You end up in this situation like Blue is in. So you're kind of playing this Russian roulette when you're playing with the other companies. Now, when you first start the game, it is completely that. But once somebody has a wad like this, I think they can drive the market wherever they like. I'm kind of questioning if I want to keep going. Nobody's going to catch Green. That seems obvious to me. The advantage that they got just as the market turned, the ability, they could have crashed and burned with what happened. But the fact that they were able to, make their big killing with those 4 factories. Now, Red eventually will have that kind of production online, but they'll never have the situation where they have an unhindered market at that point, unless they crush Yellow at the same time, and that production doesn't go anywhere. The reason I kind of don't want to is I almost want to play through and show, how the taxation and stocks work. I've never seen that in a game of business management. It was just called management. Business strategy is the updated version. But, I'm just not really terribly enjoying playing out this bookkeeping without much else. I think it's kind of fun with other people, although you probably make it through about half a year and say, all right, that's it. Fine. This was really interesting. But we're basically playing a bidding game to see who can, slit their wrists a little bit less than everyone else. Cutting that margin is what the game's all about. Now, it is not calculable. I can guarantee that. But it does end up being a pure bookkeeping game, and I would say this one's decided. I don't really want to play out 5 years of this. And, it loses its fun factor after a little bit. So I'm going to send this one up and try to figure out what I'm going to do